This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post, brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 13th of February 2020, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines, here they are.
Yeah.
In the Daily Nation, go well, Mzee. In the Star, Moi picked Gideon as his successor.
Yes.
And in the Standard, the last salute. Yes, so yesterday we had an elaborate and final send-off for Mzee Moi at Kabarak.
Yes.
The highlights were the speeches given by all his former colleagues and civil servants, co-politicians and all of that.
Yeah.
In particular, I particularly liked Sally Koskei, Dr. Silverstein, Philip Leakey, and the DG for Nyeri, Caroline Karogo.
Yes.
In particular, Caroline Karogo said something very interesting. She observed that she misses the rituals of nationhood that we had in the Nyayo era, such as the parades, the loyalty pledge, and said that in today's Kenya, there's so little that rallies us behind a common cause as countrymen.
Yeah.
I don't know
true.
if in today's schools they still do the parades. They definitely don't do the loyalty pledges. I hope that they sing the national anthem of the country.
Yes.
But if they don't, then, you know, as Caroline is saying, we have very little holding us together.
Yes.
Creating this bond of nationhood from when our kids are young.
Oh yeah. You know, but you know who I blame for getting rid of that those rituals? The Moi, the Kibaki Raila axis, the NAC, the Moi must go axis. That was a Rainbow Alliance.
Yeah.
Because when they came, there was this anti-Moi feel. They were saying Moi must go.
That run very deep.
So every ritual, every symbol of power that Moi exemplified had to go. All
Which
right?
is so sad.
Which is so sad.
Yeah.
And now the hunger has come back, and I think it is pregnant. It's time that it happens.
Yeah.
But when I don't know whether are we looking at all of them together?
Yes.
Now the stuff for me is what the story lies, right?
Okay, hold on. But before you get into that, just in relation to what JM has just said, I think it was quite interesting that Moi was a president who lived through, I think, 4 generations of Kenyans.
Yes.
Grandparents, parents, children, and even now grandchildren.
Oh, yes.
And so people are now understanding that our second president has just passed away, not knowing full well who he was, but also the grandeur of which these 2 ceremonies happened. I don't think many people have seen parades of this sort before. And I think that goes back to like that nationhood. I think seeing the feat with which our army, you know, and service people, that, you know, the gun salute, how you were saying that, you know, not a single person should move when that 19-gun salute is taking place, when our choppers are flying, when they're doing these ceremonies. Those are things that really make you feel like you're a Kenyan.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like we haven't seen that probably since Kenyatta passed away, which is quite sad.
And you know, by the way, what? I think they should be, there's this thing they call change of guard. I think along Harambee Avenue and along Parliament, we should start doing change of guard every morning. You see what they do at Buckingham Palace, the Irish guards, the guys who wear the skin things. That stuff brings in tourists.
Even in Zambia, they still do it.
You know, that stuff would keep children fixated.
And it reinforces this idea of Kenya, of
strength,
sovereignty.
And strength as well.
All right, sorry, back to the headlines.
I want to go back to
the events of yesterday.
Yes, and to me, the biggest takeaway was Gideon Moi. Right? The way he was given the mantle by his older brother, Raymond. And you see, I picked some things here. And the person I feel sorry for most in this entire thing is Uhuru Kenyatta, not William Ruto. And there's a reason why. I think he has too many people to please. And what informs that was last week, William Ruto had an interview, and he said that he's been denied entry to Kabarak a couple times before, and it's because he said he wants to be president of this republic, and Moi did not like that. Now, if that is the case, should Uhuru Kenyatta choose William Ruto as his successor, then will the Moi family and will let Mzee Moi think that Uhuru Kenyatta has betrayed them?
I want to borrow from
a dilemma.
I want to borrow from what you normally say. I want to say something a bit crazy. Right?
Go ahead.
I'm of the opinion that Mzee Moi chose the perfect time to leave this earth and join God.
Okay.
And there couldn't be any better there could not have been a more better time to do it. And I think that the beneficiary of his passing away will be his son Gideon.
Yeah.
And I think that the person right now who is scrambling somewhere in a hole is none other than Ruto.
Why?
I think that right now, you're saying that there's some gatherings that are going to happen with the KANU.
Yes. So this has gone largely unnoticed. Nick Salat had a card that he played yesterday that many did not see. And he said that after 7 days, after the next 7 days, the Kalenjin community, Rift Valley, will converge in Kabarak and just to pay homage to Moi. That in essence to me is
to endorse
Moi. The coronation may not have happened yesterday. The coronation will happen within the next 40 days.
So that leads us to two questions. Do you think the Kalenjin nation will freely accept Gideon as their leader?
You see, the people are fickle. Right? Politics is theater.
The masses are fickle.
Now, when Gideon Moi, with so much charm, addressed people yesterday, if he can be able to address the Kalenjin nation with so much charm,
the end is near.
He may not fully erode what William Ruto has achieved,
but he will be a formidable.
He will do some dents to what William Ruto has been able to build over the past couple of years, and I think it is very possible. Biggest beneficiary of that will probably be Uhuru Kenyatta.
Having said that, we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. The other headlines: topical, speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy.
Yes.
We're not going to toss any, but we are going to award a winning headline. Who do we award it to?
I think that we give it to the Standard.
The Star.
Yeah. Oh.
The Star?
The Star.
The Star.
For being topical. Fair enough. You know what? I side with you, Kevin.
Oh, really?
I second you. Let's go with the Star.
All right, very well.
It's a bit long, but it really captured the essence
of what
yesterday was also about.
Absolutely.
And that is something to watch in the coming months.
Yeah.
All right.
And so over to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country.
Yeah.
We have a three-part criteria for this as well.
Yeah.
Are the cartoons humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally effective or just plain lazy?
Yes. And here you have Gado. And Gado
in the Standard.
Yes. And the caricature of the now soon to be taken to the ICC, The Hague, Omar al-Bashir, former president of Sudan. And next to him his counsel. Counsel number one, he's Karim Khan, is Uhuru Kenyatta. Second is none other than the color singer himself, William Ruto. And there is the judge. The other one was for Uhuru was Ekaterina Filafenova.
Okay.
That's what she was called. And this one, I don't know, is an old Mudogo. And Uhuru Kenyatta is saying, our client pleads not guilty, my lord. And on the screen of the judge is the charges, other charges, genocide, crime against humanity, war crimes, etc. Wow, this is loaded.
Yeah, it is very loaded.
It is.
I think, of course, as you said, in the context of al-Bashir, they said that they're going to send him off to the ICC.
Yes.
But I think here, Gado is trying to tell us what lessons can al-Bashir learn from Uhuru and Ruto in the art of
absolutely
getting away with it. I don't know if that allegedly.
Yeah, they must be able to prove that he committed these crimes.
Exactly.
But I don't see him getting away with this because the what are they called? The place in Darfur, the Darfur rebels, and the ruling council, military council right now, they have come together. They're the ones that made the decision that he should go to The Hague. And if that's the case, they probably collected a whole lot of evidence against him.
This confirms to me that Bashir is still very much a threat to the elite, the ruling elite in Sudan right now.
Yes.
That's the only reason they would have to send him off to
ship
the
him
ICC.
Off. Exactly, that's very true.
They don't really care about the war crimes committed, but if they still see him as a threat,
sending him to The Hague is the best way.
Every coup maker ensures that whoever they uproot from power disappears and is so injured that they have no chance of coming back. Because should they come back, it's a done deal.
Absolutely.
And so, of course, the Star, the cartoon here, has the exact same context. I just think, albeit not done as well as Gado did.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Ozone.
The name of, I keep forgetting the name of this guy.
Ozone.
No, not Ozone. This guy, the
transitional,
the transitional leader.
Yes. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan.
Yes, that guy, and he's lifting al-Bashir's kanzu, and underneath the kanzu is skeletons and blood. And he's also holding the threat of the ICC. What's this
Ball
thing?
and chain.
Ball and chain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that when looking at the two cartoons, I would hands down go with Gado. Because I think, bringing in that regional context, I think that we should.
And what do we have in the
finally, in the Daily Nation, Victor
Ndula, you have a caricature of Uhuru Kenyatta opening the door to a freshly new grave.
I think he's closing the door.
It's closing. Oh, he's actually closing the door. And there are flies that are coming away from the next room.
Those are locusts.
They're actually locusts? Oh, yes. Oh, we're in that season, yeah? And right there are so many reports, BBI reports. And you have William Ruto and Raila Odinga arm wrestling. And the caption there is, sir, now where were we?
Now where were we?
Yes.
So
I find this one humorous. I find it satirical as well.
Yes.
Everything goes back to business.
Drop, and then it's got a drop of coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, this is coronavirus. Yes. So we've gone back to locusts.
Exactly.
Coronavirus.
So we close the door on
the break,
on the morning, on the funeral, and we get back to where we were.
I love this.
And I think that's the thing. As Kenyans, we said again, we're fickle.
I
so
love
we'll
this.
mourn for 7 days, but then get back to politics as usual.
Back to our political program.
My thinking here is if Uhuru Kenyatta and these two were to look at the standard and this nation today, they'll probably go with the nation because nobody wants to be reminded of their past.
So who do we award the winning cartoon?
Gado.
Gado?
Yeah.
Really?
Gado.
Okay, I would agree.
Right.
I think Gado did a
we
great
all know
job.
we are going back to
So
BBI
we can toss the Star, toss the Daily Nation.
Yes. So we have a winning headline from the Standard, and a winning cartoon from
the Standard.
Winning cartoon from the Star, winning headline from
precisely. Winning headline from the Star, and a winning cartoon from the Standard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled Strategy, A History by Sir Lawrence Friedman. Is that his name?
Yes, it is. Sir Lawrence Friedman.
Yeah.
Written in 2013. I like how you said the headline the title had a punch.
A punch, eh?
Yeah, so Sir Lawrence Friedman is a former professor of war studies at King's College London, which ranks top in the world for the multidisciplinary study of war and diplomacy. Yeah. So often he's regarded as the dean of British strategic studies. Yes. He was once the foreign policy advisor to Tony Blair and is considered Britain's foremost strategic analyst. Yeah. I think he's about 70-something years old, but he's still regarded as the go-to person for strategy. Yeah. So this book really meets in its promise of its title. Yes. It is a comprehensive history of strategy. Yeah. But it is not a manual for fighting wars or a hand-holding book for businessmen. Yeah. Rather, it's actually a fascinating and detailed description of 2,000 years of the development and philosophy of our ability and attempts to think about actions in advance. Yeah. So he says in the book that strategy is fluid and flexible. Yeah. It is governed by the starting point, not the ending point. And so the book is split into 5 parts. Yeah. Part 1 looks at the origins of strategy, starting with evolution, and he actually looks at chimpanzees. Yes. And he argues that elements of strategy have existed in the animal kingdom from the beginning of time. Yeah. And so this chapter also looks at strategy in Greek mythology and also in the Bible. Part 2 observes military strategies and its evolution. Part 3 and 4 focus on political and business strategy. And the last chapter considers theories of strategy in the context of social sciences. So really there's a lot for everyone in this book. Yeah. And it's easy to see that the book covers strategic thought from its origins in wildlife all the way to its current psychological and philosophical aspects. Yeah. So I think the question that we need to ask is, what exactly is strategy? Yes. And Friedman defines it very broadly. Yes. But one observation he makes very early on is that the word strategy nowadays has become diluted and it's used almost inappropriately, is what he says. Yes. But he notes, however, that while there is no agreed upon definition of what strategy is, it is different to being tactical and it is different to having a plan. So in the book he says that a plan supposes a sequence of events that allows one to move with confidence from one state of affairs to another. Fantastic. In the same way that you plan your day, you have a plan. However, when talking about tactics, he says that the original meaning of tactics is order in Greek. Yeah. And it is literally the ordering of formations on the battlefield. Correct. And so he talks in the book as what Sun Tzu says. Sun Tzu described tactics as follows: that a man can see the tactics that I use to conquer, but none can see the strategy out of which great out of which great victory is evolved. And so that shows the difference between a tactic and a strategy. Therefore, strategy is required when others must frustrate one's plans because they have different or possibly opposing interests or concerns to yourself. That is when you have a strategy, when you know that somebody can intercept your plan.
Right.
Ultimately, the book provides a really big wealth of information about the concept of strategy, teaching us that, like the origin of the word strategy, which is the art of the general, strategy is not purely a science, but it is actually an art to anticipate challenges and enemies in light of our own goals. It's a very long book, but I think it's very interesting, and I think anybody can get lots of information from it.
It's a beautiful book, and I took away the chapter on Sun Tzu and Machiavelli. And he does a rendition of the art of war. Right? You're laughing at what I'm saying, Sun Tzu.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Don't project.
So and he says with Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu's book, Art of War, The Art of War, is very provocative. And it also tells you how to behave when you face the enemy. More likely, more often than not, is do the opposite. So, for example, if the general was choleric, then he could easily get irritated. So, if obstinate and prone to anger, insults could enrich him. But he says it's a little bit different than that. And what really makes the difference is knowledge and intelligence and the plan that you spoke about. And this knowledge is not necessarily elicited from reading the spirits or reading the gods, right? It's about reading your enemy as well, acquiring intelligence about the disposition of your general, the disposition of your enemy. What is their profile? How do they look like, or how do they think? Now, second takeaway is on Machiavelli. You know, there's this thing that we like saying here, and like asking people, is it better to be loved or to be feared? And Machiavelli, we all think and thought that he said that it is better to be feared than to be loved. But he does the flip and says Machiavelli actually had 3 rules to this, right? And the first rule, according to me, is when he says that Machiavelli understood that to hold on to power, it was necessary to reduce the reliance on harsh, cruel methods and to behave in more moderate and graceful ways. Now, here is what I want to dedicate these 3 things and rules to some princes that we may know about.
Which princes?
I will not mention them. He says, princes, he warned, should avoid being hated and despised. 2, the common people are always impressed by appearances and results. And 3, lastly, the best power was that which had to be exercised least. So if the princes are watching, they have had.
That's some advice from
unsolicited,
unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited.
So one of the key contributions to strategic theory was that of Vilfredo Pareto.
Yes.
And Vilfredo Pareto was a student of Machiavelli. He followed in the Machiavellian tradition of analyzing politics without any sentimental attachment.
Yes.
So being very apolitical in how he viewed the practice of politics. And in this book, the author talks extensively about the contributions of Vilfredo Pareto, which I will speak about briefly. So Pareto trained as an engineer, then ventured into economics and sociology to make his name. And in his book, The Mind and Society of 1935, Pareto spoke about the role of strategy in political systems. And the first thing he did was to break down society into 2, the disorganized masses and the organized elites. So the disorganized masses exist as a chaotic aggregate. And he said he had no kind words for this disorganized masses. He said that they are collectively incompetent, they are lacking in energy, lacking in character, lacking in intelligence, lacking in knowledge. They're just condemned to be ruled and to be, governed. And maybe we could say that is the nature of the hustler nation today, right? Collectively, they're very, very disorganized. And the organized elites are the complete opposite. So they are obviously bonded together by a common cause, and then they put certain actions towards achieving that cause. So they're very, very focused on what they want to achieve. And this is perhaps why Pareto ended up saying history is and always will be a graveyard of aristocracies. Now, amongst the organized elites, Wilfredo Pareto went on further to break them down into two, the foxes and the lions.
Yes.
And he said the intelligent foxes maintain their position through cunning and deceit, whereas the lions through stolid appearance,
and personality,
magnificent
strength,
strength and personality that they exude. So he says the foxes would seek to govern through consent, and so would devise ideologies to keep the masses satisfied, and seek short-term fixes in times of crisis, as opposed to using force. But he said this is also the vulnerability of the foxes. Their readiness to compromise and their squeamishness when it came to using force would weaken the regime. At some point, their maneuvers would no longer work, and they would face hard opponents who could no longer be outwitted. So he's talking about these foxes in light of the lions, who are more prone to respond to crises or to respond to issues through force and not cunning. So, in sum, he says, to conclude, when the more tough-minded lions governed, they tended to rely on force and would be uninterested in compromise, claiming to be defending higher values. As neither group would endure on its own, the most stable regime would have a mixture of both types. In practice, each would tend to recruit their own kind. Fox regimes would degenerate over time and become vulnerable to a sudden show of force, and lion regimes would more likely be infiltrated by foxes and would thus experience more gradual decline. So in the end, he's saying that the most stable kind of setups in a political system is a hybrid of the foxes and the lions. And this is where elite circulation theory comes
it's
in.
so interesting.
This is a description actually of what he calls elite circulation theory. That amongst the elites you have those who are like foxes, you have those who are like lions, and they circulate amongst each other over time, reaching a sort of equilibrium. Sometimes it will be 60-40 in one way or the other.
It's so interesting you say that, because in the book he refers to the foxes and lions but with different names. He talks about Greek mythology, Achilles and Asidius. So the foxes are Asidius, who are cunning, they're strategic, and the lions are like Achilles, who are strong. But in the end, he says of the strategic people that you end up failing to trust them, because he says that Asidius is the one who came up with the Trojan horse, and eventually you stop trusting that person because their cunningness, eventually you see that it's lying. Whereas the lion, who is Achilles, we know that in the end Achilles, what brought him down was his Achilles heel, that weakness to his strength. So I think it's a very interesting way to look at strategy and tactics and how they can be fused together.
Absolutely. And this is also applicable to our analysis of the current political state of play in Kenya today. And we saw this playing out a little bit yesterday. You've got on the one hand William Ruto representing the Fox and his entire brigade, and then you've got the Lions. They're all elites. So William Ruto shouldn't even tell us that he's a hustler nation. No, he's part of the elite group.
He's broken through. He's broken through.
And then you've got the Railas, the Mois, the Kenyattas, who are now
the original
part of the Fox, part of the Lion gang.
You know, I have some words. I don't know whether it is okay to advise Gideon Moi.
What do we say about an unsolicited advice?
Let's say someone could engage in this. The three things that I read here. If you have 40 days to get coronated, then it's time you start exercising charm.
Now. Okay, so on a day that we had a winning headline from the Star and a winning cartoon from the Standard, I will leave you with this quote. Remember, the common people are always impressed by appearances and results. Not just the common people, even your bosses. Appearances and results. Appearances and results.
Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good evening.